YouTube, how's it going? The Goat House is back with one of my favorite videos we do here at the Goat House. We do it every single offseason. I'm going to go through every NFL team, and I'm going to give you a realistic free agent that they must sign this free agency. I definitely expect some of these to happen as well. They always do. So really excited about this one. We have plenty of free agency and trades and NFL draft coverage here at the Goat House already up on the channel. Definitely more to come, so join us, like, subscribe to the notifications on, follow us on Twitter, very important. Our Discord is now open for everyone as well, so that's pretty big. There's a link pinned in the comments that'll bring you to that. Twitter subs get some bonus content, bonus free agency content as well, and our sponsors, we got links for those pinned in the comments. GLD Shop, Liquid IV, Walk the Mock, rocking the Rams chain from the GLD Shop right now. They have all NFL teams and a lot more. Links pinned in the comments for anything you're looking for. We're going to go team by team here. We're going to start with the New York Jets. We're going to start with AFC East teams, then NFC East teams. But the Jets went with Jimmy Garoppolo as the signing they must make. And you could say, maybe Jets fans are probably saying we'd rather trade for Aaron Rodgers and then sign somebody else, obviously. And that's a possibility, and that would be pretty entertaining, and they'd probably be a contender with Aaron Rodgers. Is it really the right move, though? It's kind of going all out, for this the next year or so, with that quarterback position, while the team can definitely win right now because they're talented, but it's still kind of a team of the future. So is Aaron Rodgers, trading away pieces for Aaron Rodgers, is that the right move? I don't think it's a terrible move if they do it. I don't think it's the best move if they do it, though. I think it would make more sense to get a guy like Jimmy Garoppolo, sign him to a 1 or 2, and it could be a 3-year deal if it's kind of, there's an out on that third year. I think that would make some sense. They can win some football games and kind of keep an eye out for the quarterback of the future at the same time. And if you find that guy sometime soon, Garoppolo is a good guy to have in there as a starter, where he can learn from. Rodgers could retire at any time. It's kind of like you got to win the Super Bowl right now or maybe next year, and you're trading away draft pieces, while you've been drafting. Joe Douglas has been drafting very well. So, and I like the fit of Garoppolo there. Familiar with some guys in the coaching staff as well, so that's great. So, I think this is the sign that they should definitely look to make here. So we'll see what happens with the Jets this offseason. Next, the Patriots. I love Jesse Bates for them. Jesse Bates, a big-time free agent. Free safety position, a big-time playmaker in the back end. He's been really good on the Bengals. The Bengals could very well get him back. They have plenty of cap space. So, again, they very well can get him back. They did draft Daxton Hill from Michigan last year, and it kind of sounded like he's kind of the guy to take Bates' spot. I guess debatable because he was more of a slot guy at Michigan but played a bit of everything. So maybe they don't want to pay Bates. It sounded like they were pretty far off in terms of contract extensions or, where his value was at in the recent past. And the Bengals mix it up quite a bit. I like Bates just playing like a single high role, a team that runs a lot of cover one there. The Patriots are that team. So, McCourty, expiring contract, could retire, kind of getting up there in age. Just getting a big-time playmaker that is familiar with playing single high. It would just be huge for this defense. The Patriots also have a ton of cap space. It just makes so much sense. I think the only thing stopping something like this is the Bengals bringing him back, before it could happen, perhaps. So I love this fit. They can make it work with the cap as well. Financially, they can make it work. So I love this one. Patriots and Jesse Bates. Make it happen, Belichick. Bills, this is maybe a surprising one. Maybe people didn't expect this. I'm going to go with Adrian Amos for the Buffalo Bills, the Packers safety. And the Bills got Jordan Poyer as a free agent, right? And the way they kind of tweaked this contract going in this year, instead of just giving him an extension, it kind of felt like they were preparing for life without him in the very near future. Now he's a free agent, and Poyer's been looking like one of the best safeties in football while on the Buffalo Bills. He might be a little expensive. They run a lot of cover 2 over there. Maybe they feel like they can find a replacement. And Adrian Amos, who had an off year, but other than this year, he's been very, very solid. I think this is a cheaper and he is a younger option than Jordan Poyer. And when he was thriving with the Packers, they were running more of cover 2, and we saw a little bit of cover 4 as well, but kind of a split safety duo in the back end. And now the Packers kind of changing it up a little bit. And maybe that's good for the rest of the defense, but Amos kind of took a step down, and it was disappointing. But I think it's just kind of because of the coverage changes there. So I think he would really fit next to Micah Hyde in that Bills defense, that Leslie Frazier defense, and he's younger than Poyer, maybe a little more durable. They kind of goes into the age, and I believe he will be cheaper. He should be cheaper, and the Buffalo Bills are a little tight when it comes to the cap space. They're going to clear a little bit, but they're a little tight, and they might maybe want to get some other guys back on their team and sign some other guys, of course. They don't want to be stuck, just getting Poyer back and then doing nothing, So I like the fit. I think Amos could get back to playing like a top 10 safety if he's on the Buffalo Bills, and the Bills get a pretty good player that they can use for multiple years, and then potentially, like I said, save some money there. But it's going to be interesting to see what they do. Maybe they bring back Poyer, which I know the Bills fans won't be against. I won't be against it either because he's so good with the Bills. He's one of the better safeties in football. I heard something about Christian Benford maybe moving back to safety. Are they going to need a corner more than safety? Then that's a big question there. So it should be an interesting offseason with the Buffalo Bills. They got to clear themselves some cap space first, though. But that's an interesting one that I thought of. Next, the Miami Dolphins, who got Vic Fangio as defensive coordinator. I like Draymond Jones. I like Draymond Jones for a few teams as a fantastic fit. We'll talk about him a couple times more here in this video. So he played 3-4 end for the Denver Broncos, and he's been feels like getting better and better every single year. He had a really good year this year, so and he played under Vic Fangio on top of this, so that's kind of a bonus. So then they kind of can use that, pass rushing defensive lineman, just inside of guys like Bradley Chubb, who played with under Vic Fangio, and Jalen Phillips on the other side. Those are your two edge rushers. Having Draymond Jones up front, just inside those guys. You have a standout guy in Christian Wilkins up front as well. I thought it made some sense there, but the Dolphins do have to clear some space for something like this to happen. But I really do like the fit there. NFC East teams, talking about the Commanders. James Bradbury, which I think the Commanders could use. They could add another corner. They could use another corner there. They don't have a whole lot of needs. See what they decide at the quarterback position. Could be Howell. Could take a look at the interior offensive line. Not the best free agency for the interior offensive line. Looking at mainly guard for the Commanders. Then defense, maybe, get Deron Payne back, linebacker, cornerback, things like that. But Bradbury, who had a fantastic year with the Eagles, the Eagles definitely could get him back, but maybe the Commanders can, take him away from their rival here. I definitely think he can be a scheme fit. He really thrived with Rivera in Carolina those last couple of years, last year, I want to say. So I thought there was kind of a fit there at the same time. So add that corner, and then you kind of can go in the draft and take best available, or maybe grab that guard. Because again, the free agency class isn't that great at guard, which is a big need in my opinion for the Commanders. So we'll see. The Giants, I love Tremaine Edmonds for the Giants, and they actually have some connections there, some Bills connections with Brian Daboll, who is more of an offensive guy, but he's familiar with Edmonds coming from Buffalo. But a big one, Joe Shane, coming from Buffalo, is now the Giants general manager. And they took Edmonds purely off upside a few years ago, and this guy is still getting going. He took a major step this year. This was part of the prospect evaluation for Edmonds. Like, he is a very, very raw. Like, he's going to be really good down the line into his second contract, his first, I guess, non-rookie contract. So he's yet to enter his prime. That's a guarantee. So the Giants also need inside linebackers pretty badly. He's played more of that 4-3 inside linebacker. I like the fit of him in a 3-4 in this Martindale scheme on the inside. Makes a lot of sense. So a lot of cap space for the Giants. I know they do have to worry about Daniel Jones, Saquon Barkley, etc. But they have cap space, which Edmonds will be pretty pricey. They have a need at the inside. I love the fit in that scheme, and they have those Bills, the Bills background, the Bills connection there. So I love this one. I think the Giants will definitely try to make an offer if he's available when we get to free agency for Tremaine Edmonds. So a guy with a lot of upside, a good player right now, a guy with a ton of upside there. The Cowboys, I like Jonathan Jones, the Patriots corner. For the Cowboys, a guy that spent most of his, pretty much all of his time, almost all of his time, playing as a slot corner and a damn good one of the best in football. This year, he actually played on the outside, and he looked pretty good as well. And he's very good at playing man coverage. The Patriots, you're dealing with man coverage when you line up against them, and he's still able to play at a pretty high level. Usually, the Patriots don't really re-sign these guys that are pretty pricey. They play corner, they play running back. They don't extend these guys. I could see the Patriots make an exception for Jonathan Jones because he's played so well at outside and inside cornerback. for them, and we know he fits well. But I can definitely see him in Dan Quinn's system. They like to run a lot of man coverage, a little bit more 2 years ago than last year, but they run just as much as the Patriots. And they could use an outside corner, and they keep getting beat up at corner. I was going to say slot corner, but corner in general. So just adding one that can play on the inside or the outside could be huge for the Cowboys, and he's definitely a schematic fit as well. So I like that one. Cowboys have to clear a little bit of space. Very curious to see how much Jonathan Jones will cost. That's one I'm very curious about. I think he's a hell of a ball player. The fact that he's pretty versatile when it comes to the secondary, the cornerback position's great. But yeah, sometimes those Patriots guys go to a different spot and they don't look as good. So maybe that's why he won't be too expensive, perhaps. But we'll see. It's an interesting one. And then some teams are going to view him as just purely an inside guy, and those guys don't get paid a ton of money, and some teams will like him outside, so he'll get paid more. So it's going to be a very intriguing free agent here. So very curious to see how much he gets, how much he earns here. Eagles, I'm going to go Jermaine Pratt. Jermaine Pratt from the Bengals, the linebacker who I was very high on coming out of college as well. He's really getting going recently. He's been good attacking the football, racking up the tackles, pretty solid in coverage. We've seen the Bengals are a defense that kind of mixes it up a bit. They'll switch off their coverages, things like that. I think he has some upside, blitzing as well, if you want to use him that way. I just see a fit. I see some similarities with the Bengals and the Eagles defense, what they're trying to do over there. Kaiser White was only a one-year deal. I think they can find better. Philadelphia Eagles can definitely find better. Get TJ Edwards back, keep on the inside. So I really like Pratt in that Gannon defense as a fit, at the other linebacker spot. So that one made some sense. They may have to clear some money. They usually are a team that's a fan of borrowing future money. It's worked out for them this year, I suppose. And they could try to bring some guys back. They got, I'm not going to sit here and list them, but they have quite a few guys that are free. We talk about Bradbury in this video. We'll talk about Sumalo, guys like that are free agents. So, but I just really like the fit, and this is a pretty big big-time linebacker that could be available for the Eagles to get better here. So, and linebacker's kind of been an issue last few years. It's been a little bit better this year, but we'll see how it holds up against the Chiefs in that Super Bowl. So we'll see how bad they need a linebacker. Talk about the Ravens. I like Josh Jacobs. I've been preaching this. I've been saying it a lot. Josh Jacobs in the Ravens offense would be a nightmare for defenses. Just such a good fit. We saw the Raiders bring in Josh McDaniels, who runs more of that power running style. And then Josh Jacobs, that's kind of his running style. It works so well. And he was arguably the best back in football this year. And he's young. It feels like he's just getting going. I'm also really not a huge fan of signing running backs to not so much pricey, but more so long-term and pricey. But Jacobs, you almost can make an exception for because I think he's just starting. And when he was at Bama, he didn't play a whole lot every single year, all 4 years or how many years he was there. So I think he's got plenty left in him. It's not like he's going to tail off, 2 years into his contract. And the Ravens got, and I keep saying it, they got running backs. These guys can play. J.K. Dobbins, when he's healthy, he's on the field, he can play. He's really good. He's not Josh Jacobs good. Definitely not Josh Jacobs good, but he's really good. But the durability issues are not just Dobbins, but the whole running back group in a lot, more than just the running back position, but it's brutal right now. So go get a guy like Josh Jacobs who, just entering his prime perhaps. You would think so because he would look like the best back in football this year, but I think he's just getting going. I think it's a schematic fit. I think he looked like the best running back in football. And the Ravens probably trying to change some things and they want to pass the ball more and more effectively, but they're still going to be a running the football type team here. So there's actually this is the year. If the Ravens are going to add another running back, this is the year of free agency because there's some really good fits of Josh Jacobs. I think David Montgomery fits very well. I think Damian Harris fits very well. Maybe they take a crack at Saquon Barkley. I like Jacobs better than Barkley for the Ravens all day, every day for the Ravens. So this is one that I don't know if is it gonna happen? I keep asking myself, but I would love for it to happen. I would love for him to be back on the Raiders too, but because how good he was. But I love the fit there, as you can tell. The Browns, Javon Hargrave, the Eagles defensive tackle, who's been big time ever since they got him, and he was very good for the Steelers as well. But the Browns need help in the inside, that's for sure. They need D tackle help. They could use some linebacker help here. I thought about somebody else that I thought about was David Long Jr., the linebacker of the Tennessee Titans, who's a free agent, because they could definitely use a linebacker, like him. And they brought in Jim Schwartz as their defensive coordinator, come from Tennessee. And David Long's really thrived these last couple years under Jim Schwartz, too. Or he actually wasn't the defensive coordinator for the Titans, but he's the defensive coordinator for the Browns now. But as soon as he came in, that run defense got a lot better in Tennessee. But he's also familiar with Javon Hargrave, before the Titans, he was with the Eagles. And he's going to value having a big-time defensive tackle. I mean, he had one in Tennessee with Jeffrey Simmons, too. So having a guy like Hargrave, that'll be big. If he'll fit Schwartz's defense, it's a huge need. The Browns are in a hole cap space-wise, but they're just going to restructure Deshaun Watson's deal and do some other things as well. And they'll have actually a decent amount of cap space. So they'll go out and just try to make this defense better where they need to make it better. I've been saying it for the last couple of years. Like, this Browns defense could be good, but just down the middle of the defense, down the middle, kind of in the front, not good, and it really showed. It's been showing, but it really showed this year. Steelers, we talked about Tremaine Edmonds with the Giants. The Giants must go for him. The Steelers must go for him as well. I would love him in a Mike Tomlin defense. It's too bad Flores isn't there still, but I would really like him in a Mike Tomlin defense for sure. They need to get better at linebacker. They've been looking to get better at linebacker. Again, Edmonds, he's just getting going. This guy, to some people, he's been underwhelming probably so far. But I was very high on this guy at Virginia Tech. I knew he was going to come to his next contract, like his first big contract. Well, within that, to see what he's made of, I thought he took a big step up this year. And I think just with Mike Tomlin and that defense, it's a little bit of a scheme change, but I like it for Edmonds. I think he's going to thrive. I think he'd thrive in a defense like that. So, I would be surprised. I talk about the Giants with Edmonds too. I'd be surprised, same with the Steelers, if they didn't try this, if he was available. Sometimes the Bills sign their guys before free agency. We actually see that with Buffalo all the time. So we'll see. But I would like this a lot. I think the Steelers should show some interest here. The Bengals, I'm going to go Mike Gesicki. The Bengals were tough. I was trying to find them a better offensive lineman. And Orlando Brown is the first one that stands out. Like, yeah, if they have a shot to get Orlando Brown Jr., like, yes, Bengals go get him. But at the same time, I was trying to make this as realistic as possible. I really think realistic is Orlando Brown's back with the Chiefs. I don't think anybody else besides the Chiefs is going to get him, but maybe. But then at the same time, the Bengals are just pass. They don't really value the run a whole lot. And Orlando Brown's more. But the Chiefs are the same thing as well. But maybe the Bengals are like, yeah, he's better run blocking than pass blocking. And then just looking for some other pieces. Thought about Andre Dillard, and then they would rather roll with like Jackson Carman, left tackle. The other pieces aren't really the best fits. I don't think they would love to have those guys. So maybe they would look at the draft for that, unless Orlando Brown was available. So I like Gesicki for that Bengals offense. Hayden Hurst was Uzama was great for them last year. Hayden Hurst was great for them this year. Free agent Hurst, that is. Gesicki was a little underwhelming this year, but you can't forget what was going on before this year. He is a super talented receiver threat at the tight end position, a freaky dude as well, and I think he would really be productive in that Bengals offense. I mean, you have to worry about so many different guys, and adding a threat like this. I mean, we saw the year going on, and Hurst was kind of getting more and more because teams are so focused on the other guys, they get him going. But if you got Gesicki in there, he's going to get going, and it kind of opens things up for the other guys as well. And I think because he kind of had a down year, he'd be pretty affordable too, which the Bengals have a decent amount of cap space. So I just really like this fit. I think it actually could open things up even more for that offense. A little tricky trying to find that left tackle of the future. Maybe it could be Carman. Maybe they're going to stick with Jonah Williams. I don't know about that, but and I guess they can use another guard. I don't know if free agency is the place to find their fit for their guard, but they got Kappa last year. We'll see what they do, but I do like the fit of Gesicki there. The Lions, I like David Onyemata for the Lions. I like a lot of D tackles for the Lions. I mean, the best one is probably Daron Payne because he's young, he's getting better and better, super talented. Again, a lot of upside. So if they can get a guy like Daron Payne, That'd be fantastic as well. I think it's realistic. I just think Onyemata is very realistic. I mean, this is an underrated defensive tackle that this year was a little off, but the last few years, and I know he was suspended for a little bit of the last season, but when he's been on the field, he's looked like a top 10 defensive tackle. In the Lions, got a lot of young studs. They're looking for a veteran to plug in up there to help stop that run. This is a beast stopping the run. And you got some connections in there, too. That's kind of a bonus. You got guys that came from the Saints and Aaron Glenn, the defensive coordinator, Dan Campbell, the head coach, obviously. So I like that as well. And Daron Payne would be the bigger get, which is possible. They'll probably take a look at Javon Hargrave. They may take a look at Dalvin Tomlinson. The D tackles in free agency, really good. And the Lions could use another one. They could use a linebacker as well. But there's just too many things that kind of made sense here with Onyemata and the Lions. And I think he's a stud as well. I think it's a plug-and-play fit right away. Playing right next to Aleem McNeil, and they have some other guys that can play on that defensive line as well. Young guys to rotate in. So I like that fit a lot. I think I've said I like that fit a lot a million times already in this video. The Bears, it's funny because the Lions, I talked about Daron Payne maybe being right there for the Lions, and I almost did the same thing with the Bears. Like, I love Daron Payne for the Bears, who's a big-time free agent, one of my top guys. And I did my top 10 free agents with some fits. It's a recent video as well. And I like Daron Payne for the Bears. They have loads of cap space, so they're going to go out, and I don't think they're going to spend all of it. They might spend a little less than people think because they're still worried about the future. But they're going to spend. They're going to make some splash moves. And I like Payne in that Eberflus defense, and they have to make that defensive line better. But I was thinking, what could be more important? Well, arguably, I guess debatable if it's more important or not. But what else could they do? A guy they can target in the draft is Jalen Carter, which Daron Payne, Jalen Carter, could you use both? Sure, you can use both. But do you want to value two guys like that much? One with a very pricey contract in free agency and one with the first overall or wherever, fourth if they trade back, second if they trade back one. I think you're putting too much stock into one position. And they are pretty much the same position there as well. So what the Bears do in free agency with that interior defensive line spot may tell us what their plan is with the draft as well, perhaps. And I was looking at the right tackle spot because the Bears, there's a lot of complaint about their offensive line. It needs to be better to get Fields some protection, and it could be better for sure. I like what they got going at left tackle with Braxton Jones. That was a hell of a pick last year. And there actually is some hope in the interior. Tevin Jenkins with moving him to guard. There's some promise there, I suppose. And then you have Cody Whitehair, who's solid at guard as well. So I look at right tackle and center is what they could use, and the center draft class isn't that bad. Look at that second round pick they have there in the middle from the Ravens, and I think they can grab the center with that one. I think getting that right tackle could be huge, like in free agency. And Juwan Taylor is that right tackle who I was high on out of Florida coming out, and he was another upside, raw prospect. And he's had his up and down so far, but he had a pretty solid year. And just very, very young. Again, still growing, still getting better. So I think that fits the Bears. Like, if they're going to sign guys, they got to be part of this rebuild. I think Juwan Taylor could be that guy. So you get that right tackle. You don't have to worry about that in the draft, which they could trade back and take one of those tackles, I suppose, as well. But then you can kind of go for Jalen Carter, whoever it may be, with that first draft pick that you have there. So, and you're a step closer to completing that young offensive line there. So I thought Juwan Taylor made some sense. He's going to get paid more than people think, so he's going to be a big-time free agent. The Vikings, I like Cameron Sutton, the cornerback from the Steelers, which coming out of Tennessee was kind of like a versatile DB, and he's kind of was early in his career. Like, he played a lot, and there was some talk about him playing safety, but he played a lot in the slot, but played a lot of outside corner these last couple of years, and he did a pretty good job at it. The Vikings need corners. They bring in Brian Flores, which a bonus is Brian Flores was with the Steelers last year, but Brian Flores runs a lot of man coverage. He needs some man coverage corners. Who runs man coverage? Mike Tomlin and Brian Flores and the Steelers last year, pretty much every year. 2 years ago, they had a weird year where they ran actually a lot more zone than we're used to, but so it makes some sense, and he's pretty young still. Shouldn't be super expensive. So I see a fit here. You have the Flores connection as a kind of a bonus. It's a huge need. So I like that fit for the Minnesota Vikings. Biggest need is definitely man coverage corners for the Vikings. The Packers, I'm going to go Von Bell. The strong safety from the Cincinnati Bengals here is a free agent. Both the safeties of the Bengals are free agents. Adrian Amos is a free agent for the Packers who was looking like a top 10 safety for them up until this year. Was definitely off, but they kind of switched what kind of coverages they're running a bit. They are mixing it up quite a bit, which I do like. When Amos was kind of thriving, it was a lot of cover 2 and cover 4, really nothing else. It's kind of split safety back there where do you really have a strong and a free? They're kind of, split, helping over the top, especially in cover 2, that shell coverage, but so they're switching it up a little bit. I think Von Bell, the Bengals, who they're, constantly switching, going from cover 1 to cover 3 to back to cover 2, they're switching up. They're pretty much going to run everything. And he's more of a true strong safety, where Darnell Savage to me is more of a true free safety. And having Bell, line up in the box and cover tight ends if you need him to. So I thought that made sense, the kind of direction that they're heading, unless they kind of want to revert and kind of go back to what they were doing. But, I think the defense was really kicking into gear at the end of this year, and that was without Rashawn Gary too. So they're going to get him back, the edge rusher, the standout pass rusher there. So I thought Von Bell, overall, Bell was a lot better than Amos this year. Overall, who do I think is the better safety? I think it's probably Amos. It's pretty close. I definitely, I think it's definitely Amos. But I think for the Packers, if they want to continue what they're running last year, I think Bell would be better for them. So, still young, was more of a playmaker this year, so it was good to see. Colts, I'm going to go with Isaac Sumalo, the guard for the Philadelphia Eagles. We still don't know who their coach will be, the Colts that is. Maybe it'll be Shane Steichen from the Eagles. So that can make some sense with Sumalo there. But they need one more guard in there. And you could say they need a left tackle, but they probably roll with Ryman perhaps. And the offensive line was getting a little bit better at the end of the year, but they could use another guard there opposite of Quentin Nelson. So I thought Sumalo made some sense. I don't think the Colts will be big spenders because they're never big spenders under Ballard, but they might be in some sort of rebuild, not stage 1, but retooling everything. So just adding a guard, which there's only there's really only a few good guards in free agency, Sumalo being one of those. So that's the route the Colts could go. The Titans, speaking of Eagles offensive lineman, I put Andre Dillard in there. They definitely need a left tackle. I mean, Orlando Brown Jr. would be an incredible fit in Tennessee, blocking for Derrick Henry. If he's available, they'll definitely try to get him. I really think he's going to end up back in the Chiefs. So they'll be looking for a left tackle. There's quite a few right tackles, which it depends on if the Titans are feeling okay moving somebody to left tackle, whether it's one of those right tackles if they sign one, or Nicholas Petit-Frere. But they had him at right tackle, and he looked pretty good. And they were insisting on Dennis Daly at left tackle, which was just terrible. So I think they'll be looking for that left tackle. I think they'll view Dillard as a scheme fit. Kind of a risky signing because he didn't play a whole lot for the Eagles. He filled in pretty well when guys went down. But you see the upside there. He's a former first-round pick for a reason. So I thought that was a pretty good fit. Shouldn't be super expensive. We'll see. Jags, I like Byron Murphy, the Cardinals corner for the Jags. A guy that spent some time playing inside in the slot and outside corner as well, which I think the Jags will like the versatility. They really could use either one. And I still think Murphy's got the best ball for him is in front of him. So I think the Jags could use one more corner. And again, I think they'll like that they'll like him playing in and out. Kind of like Darius Williams, which I think they like more now. They like him out a little bit more now. They're going to have to get Juwan Taylor back or make a decision there as well. Could use one more guard. I thought about Sumalo for the Jags as well. I thought about receivers as well. Maybe the draft is more like it for receivers for the Jags. Got to get Ingram back. I liked Murphy as a fit. Texans, Draymond Jones, I love for DeMeco Ryans' defense. This could be the Arik Armstead for DeMeco Ryans. A unique defensive lineman, a guy that played D tackle and defensive end because, his size, athleticism, physical, the mixture of everything, and the ability to get after the quarterback. That's what Draymond Jones could be. He's been a 3-4 end, but in Ryan's 4-3, I think he fits that role of like Armstead, from San Francisco. I think you can put him at D end even in the 4-3, but I think he probably starts inside, over the guard at D tackle or a 3 technique, a hair outside the guard. I think that makes a lot of sense. I think he's going to have good production under DeMeco Ryans. I think it's an incredible fit. I think that Armstead was such a important piece of that defense, just throwing offensive lines and just offenses off. I think having a guy like that to fit Ryan's defense could be big there. Linebacker would be a pretty big need. I thought about Alshire coming from the Niners. It's not really a huge signing though. Looking for the big realistic signings here. It's somewhat of a big signing actually, but I just really like the fit. We'll see if the Broncos allow Jones to leave. He had a really big year this year. I think, for the most part, he'd probably fit, as a 3-4 end. But make an exception with Ryan's scheme here, the way he runs things on defense. The Saints got to dig themselves out of a hole, which they'll do, but they are trying to bring in Derek Carr, which they might have to dig themselves out of more of a hole, in which they'll do, but that kind of limits you fully still in free agency. So this one maybe it could be a little tough. It's a tricky one to figure out how much Jacoby Myers is going to cost. The shortage on receivers, maybe he ends up being one of the higher paid ones of free agency. Shortage on free agency receivers, I should say. But I really like the fit with the Saints, especially if they get a guy like Derek Carr. They need a weapon like this. They have Chris Olave on the outside, his deep threat ability. I'm thinking Michael Thomas, Saints and Michael Thomas could split up. So getting a somewhat, you don't want to compare Jacoby Myers to Michael Thomas, but somewhat similar play style. You can put in the slot, kind of a bigger slot type guy, but you also can put outside, kind of a possession type receiver with some upside. So it's a similar style receiver, in my opinion, as Michael Thomas, which the Saints really haven't been getting because he's been injured, and they might split up this offseason. We'll see what happens with that. But so I just really like the fit. Pairing him with Olave, pairing him with, I'm kind of thinking they're going to get Derek Carr, so pairing him with Carr. But either way, they're going to need somebody else here. So we'll see if they can make that happen. It's really going to depend on how much Myers costs. He could be that, he's not going to get paid as much as Christian Kirk did last year, but he could kind of be that surprise where like Kirk got that much. It kind of can be something like that, which it worked out for the Jags and Kirk there. The Bucs, I like the fit of Dalton Reisner. I mean, this is probably the third best guard in free agency. And, he isn't the greatest guard in the world. He's solid. He's young. He's still getting better. It's kind of a weaker guard class, but I do like the fit. I do like the fit here, and the Bucs need a guard pretty bad. And with Brady gone, are they, kind of a question, are they going to enter some sort of rebuild, retool, something like that? So getting a young guy like this to be a part of that makes some sense. The Bucs got to dig themselves out of the hole cap-wise too, so they can't really go after somebody super expensive probably. The Panthers, I talked about Draymond Jones a few times in this video. I just really like him as a fit this is probably a top 15 free agent around that range. But this is kind of a unique type guy. There's not too many guys that, interior pass rusher that can kind of play D end or D tackle. And the Panthers, who they hired defensive coordinator, they hired Evero from the Denver Broncos. Draymond Jones had a standout season under him. Evero's defense is going to maybe change some things for the Panthers' solid defense already, but it's not going to hurt them at all because they got some really good football players that can fit that. But what they're missing, if Evero kind of wants to continue to run his 3-4 defense, is they're missing like a 3-4 end type of guy because Derek Brown is just an interior, he's a D tackle, in that scheme. They're looking for a DM. Brian Burns would be in that if they're running Evero's usual scheme. Brian Burns would be technically an outside linebacker. He's still an edge rusher, though, and he can fit that just fine. So I think this is the type of player they're missing. He had his best season yet under the Panthers' new defensive coordinator last year with the Broncos. So it makes some sense there. And the Panthers will probably do what they did last year. They'll probably borrow future cap, which they have some future cap there. So, they don't look pretty right now when it comes to the cap space, but they're going to be fine. I really like that fit. It's kind of obvious because Evero is there. The Falcons, I really like this fit as well. Marcus Davenport, who you think, he's still got a ton of upside, really young pass rusher. When he was coming out of Texas San Antonio, he was kind of known as a raw prospect, like he's going to be really good down the line. And we saw glimpses of that, but the main issue has been the durability concerns. Like he's been off the field a little bit because of that, but when he's healthy, he's good. He's underrated. He's good. He's probably going to get paid a lot more than people think. And the Falcons need a pass rusher. They also bring in Ryan Nielsen, who was with the Saints. Obviously, he's their new defensive coordinator, so you see a fit there, and you may think, maybe he's seen something like the upside here at Davenport. Falcons have quite a bit of cap space, kind of a shortage on edge rushers, So they go out and they can pay this guy. It's just all about him staying healthy then. So I like the fit. There's a connection there. They have the cap space. They have the need. So this is one that really stood out to me. There's some, a lot of these stand out to me, but this is definitely one of those ones that, like, it makes sense for multiple reasons here. Marcus Davenport of the Falcons, that is. The Broncos, I like Mike McGlinchey for the Broncos. The 49ers can very well get him back. It's definitely a strong possibility. The right tackle for San Francisco has been important to them. But Sean Payton coming in, he's going to value the tackle position like he did in New Orleans. At one point they went out and got Ryan Ramczyk in late first round when no one thought they would take a tackle because the offensive line's been so good, but they were ready for the future and they saw how good he was. And just having, that strong, and they had Armstead back then too, just having a strong tackle duo was just so important to them. And the Broncos, they got a really good one at left tackle in Garrett Bowles. They definitely need a right tackle pretty bad. So I like the fit of McGlinchey. I think they'll value it. They might need to clear a little bit of space, and they got to hope that the Niners don't get him back. But I think the Broncos should definitely show interest in McGlinchey there, and they'll prioritize, make it very important that they get that, again, like I said, to get the offensive line together and protect Russell Wilson there a little bit better. Raiders went with Dalvin Tomlinson, the Vikings defensive tackle, who the Vikings defense really struggled this year. I thought Tomlinson maybe was their best defensive player. He spent a lot of time at nose tackle for the Giants, and then for the Vikings, they moved him around a bit. And he was very underrated, getting pressure in the interior. We already know he can stop the run at a very high level, so he kind of can play D tackle or nose tackle. Kind of fits today's style NFL. The Raiders have big needs in the interior. I mean, they got 2 stud pass rushers. I know Chandler Jones wasn't much of a stud last year, but there's still some hope there. They got an absolute stud in Max Crosby. And they're pretty much just last year was pretty much Max Crosby doing it himself in terms of the pass rush out there. And then on top of that, they didn't have the best corner, so he had to get there quick. Adding some interior pieces could be huge. So Raiders have some cap space, but then they might not after. They actually might have even more after they get rid of Derek Carr, but they maybe will have a lot less than they do right now if they get Aaron Rodgers, perhaps. We'll see what they do. But I like the fit. It's a huge need. They have cap space. The bonus, there is a connection here. Patrick Graham, who's the Raiders defensive coordinator, who I think is a really good defensive coordinator. I just don't think he had the pieces when the Raiders last year. He was very good defensive coordinator with the New York Giants, where Dalvin Tomlinson came from before he was in Minnesota. So, and again, I thought Tomlinson had a standout year this year too. So, defensive tackle class is very good. I like the fit. With the Raiders, there's a connection there as well. So that made some sense. I definitely could see them being in on Javon Hargrave, Eagles defensive tackle, Daron Payne, guys like that. It's a really good class there. Dalvin Tomlinson makes a ton of sense. Chargers, we went a running back here. We went David Montgomery, the Bears running back, a physical back, which I have a feeling is not going to be back with the Bears this year. They kind of switched their scheme with the coaching change, the running scheme this year. A little bit more outside zone. Previously there was some inside zone, a lot of inside running, power running. And Montgomery is that bruiser type, that physical power running type. So that's why he was better then. So I don't think he'll be with the Bears. He could be. But the Chargers, they have, they're maybe mainly a pass type team. Eckler is a very, very good running back, though, but he isn't that power runner. He's not that physical runner that's going to run inside a whole lot. They want to keep him for the outside runs and pass him the ball. And that's kind of, they needed to run the ball more. I mean, especially in that Jags game, and that's why they moved on from Lombardi. But at the same time, it's like, Eckler can't really handle that load on the inside. They didn't really trust their other backs. They're a little underwhelming, So, going and get that guy that can complement Eckler would be big. And they bring in Kellen Moore, great hire, by the way. He equally valued the pass and the run in Dallas, but he really valued that running back duo and having 2 different style backs. Pollard, that speedster, kind of get on the outside. You can have him run routes, have him run those wheel routes. And then Zeke, who's an inside physical runner, even though Zeke's declining, he's still one of the better short yardage backs in football. And then here you go. You got that type here with David Montgomery, who's a physical back, going to get that extra yard, going to be that goal line back. So I think he pairs very well with Austin Eckler. It's exactly what they need, what they were missing, what Kellen Moore could use. And he shouldn't really be that expensive. His value probably dropped a little bit because a little bit of an off year, and there's other really, really good running backs in free agency. So I really like that fit. There's a couple other guys you can go with here. I think other guys would be too expensive, though, but maybe a guy that would be right around the same price, maybe a little bit cheaper. A guy like Damian Harris from the Patriots. It's another one there, so interesting one. The Chiefs, I went with Juwan Taylor, which we talked about Taylor a little bit ago, too, but the Chiefs, they need one more piece of the puzzle. One more piece of the puzzle, right tackle. And they got to get Orlando Brown Jr. back, which I expect them to. He's left tackle. They got some stud interior guys, all three of them, studs. They just need that right tackle. And I consider the Chiefs right now the second best offensive line in football. I think the best is the Philadelphia Eagles, who they are playing in the Super Bowl in just 2 days. So we'll see how they match up. Even though they're not matching up on the field, we'll see how they fare. I just need that right tackle to be that best offensive line in football. And what's the most important thing on that team? The best player in all of football, Patrick Mahomes, and protecting Patrick Mahomes. Make sure he doesn't get that high ankle sprain in the playoffs. He doesn't have to deal with an injury going in the Super Bowl. So going and getting that young right tackle, Juwan Taylor, who I think will reach his potential with a team like Kansas City Chiefs, would be huge. The issue is, I suppose, they actually have a decent amount of cap space. You wouldn't think so. Not a crazy amount, but they have a decent amount. But they have to pay Orlando Brown Jr. a ton of money. They could backload it, but maybe them dishing out a bunch of money to a tackle makes them not want to turn around and dish out a bunch of money to a tackle twice in free agency. I see sometimes teams doing that. Maybe they just trust they'll be able to draft a right tackle. I can see that all day. So maybe this is not one I'm counting on 100%, but I really like the fit, and it would make some sense there. Cardinals next. Nate Davis makes some sense for them. Their guard situation, pretty much their offensive line situation minus left tackle has been a bad situation. So they could use everything. They could use everything but left tackle on that offensive line. The interior has been an issue. I mean, snapping the damn ball, because Rodney Hudson's been, I don't know what he's been doing. So snapping the, he hasn't been on the field really is my point, but so snapping the ball has been a big issue. Guard's been interior pressure for Murray's been a big issue. He's good at getting outside the pocket, throwing the run, but he's had to do it like instantly, and he's had to pick one side. So getting an interior guy here could make some sense. A guy like Nate Davis, who I think he could be the top guard. The guard class is pretty weak for free agency. He could be the overall top guard. They brought in Monty Ossenfort, who is Patriots background everyone's talking about, but he's actually coming from Tennessee. So familiar with Nate Davis, perhaps that makes some sense as well. So kind of get the guard situation sort of figured out here, so you can protect your currently injured quarterback, and then we'll kind of move from there. So that made sense. Seahawks, we're sticking actually on the Titans free agents here. I thought about quite a few guys for the Seahawks. We talked about Draymond Jones enough in this video, 3 different teams, but I do like Draymond Jones for them because the Seahawks switched to more of a 3-4, and they could use that 3-4 end. They were kind of playing D tackles in that spot. So they might be interested in a guy like Draymond Jones. So thinking about guys like that. But I do like David Long Jr. for them a lot. Very underrated linebacker. Really good in coverage. I mean, he actually did pretty well against Travis Kelce, I noticed. Maybe the last couple times he's played him, which is weird because there's defensive backs that can't do it. And he's really good stopping a run. Really good stopping a run, which the Seahawks really need. So they could use that. They can use another linebacker like this. Brooks is currently injured, but he'll be back. They need another guy alongside him. I think it's a really good fit, and where they're kind of heading, where the way they adjusted their defense a little bit, I think it's a really good fit, and the Titans definitely need him back. We've seen them let some linebackers walk in the past, though, but I think Long Jr. is a little bit different. But I do like the fit with the Seattle Seahawks. San Francisco, we talked about Dalvin Tomlinson with the Raiders. We're talking about it again for the San Francisco 49ers. I really like the fit here, and it's something that the Niners really need, actually. I think defensive line, the Niners are tough. They actually need a big body guy on the inside. They could use another pass rusher, but opposite Nick Bosa, Menu, who was doing pretty good. Abukam's a free agent. And they have Armstead, who plays off the edge and kind of plays that D tackle 3 technique role. They need a gap, plugger. Yeah, that's what they need here. Javon Kinlaw has been disappointing and injured and disappointing, so they can't really rely on him. They need a big body guy on the inside, like a Dalvin Tomlinson, who there's some really good defensive tackles in this group. I think he's not going to be the most expensive one. He'll be a little pricey, but not the most expensive one or ones. So it made some sense for the 49ers here. They need somebody like this for that Steve Wilks defense. They needed it last year, too. I thought the Eagles really dominated that position for the 49ers when they were able to run the ball. They really dominated the interior for of the 49ers. And then one more, and it's speaking of the 49ers sort of. Jimmy Ward, a San Francisco 49ers defensive back, longtime defensive back who's been fantastic for them recently. I like for the Rams a very interesting situation because Jimmy Ward, if you remember, was free safety for a long time for the 49ers and a pretty damn good one. Recent years, he's been playing the slot, sometimes playing, not really that all this year, but sometimes playing free safety. I'd say 2 years ago, last year, he was kind of switching back and forth a little bit, but recently playing the nickel as his main role. And if you actually saw a clip from him, what was it, Instagram Live, I think, he's talking to the camera, he told Shanahan he wants to go back to his normal position, which was free safety. He doesn't really want to play the slot anymore. And he said that Shanahan said that, ask him if he likes the bench or get used to the bench, something along those lines. So that didn't sound great. So it sounds like Ward, that doesn't mean he's for sure not going back to the Niners. I'm not going to rule that him going back out. And maybe he's okay with playing nickel. Maybe they would like for him to play free safety. I don't know. Probably not, but we'll see. It's up to Wilks at this point. They just hired Steve Wilks not too long ago, a couple days ago. But it almost felt like, he wants to play free safety, so he's going to go somewhere where he can play safety. The Rams got a couple free agents at the position, obviously, and so they need safety help. They kind of need safety help as it is. John Johnson left. They kind of took a step down, but they're usually able to coach these guys up, and they play a little better than their names are, I suppose. So they're going to coach these guys up right, but Rams a little bit of a hole cap space wise, so they'll be looking. I think Jimmy Ward is a really good veteran, but I think he'll be kind of not cheap, but a cheaper veteran, cheaper than you think maybe, especially if he's not going to play in the slot. He's going to play more free safety. I think that makes some sense for the Rams there, and they'll probably move him around. Like, he's not going to go there and say, I'm only playing free safety every single snap. I think he'll line up what the Rams typically do with their defensive backs, line up in a couple different spots. He'll maybe even line up in a slot sometimes too. So I thought that made some sense there. The Rams won't have a ton of money to spend, and like I said, I think he'd be somewhat of a cheaper veteran option. Almost put Kareem Hunt because I liked Kareem Hunt for them at the trade deadline. They could use another running back, specifically a pass-catching running back. So, and I thought about Adrian Amos, another safety as well. I like Amos as a fit. Ward kind of stood out. There's a couple guys I was kind of deciding between for the Rams. Go with something different here, and Ward is an interesting situation to monitor for free agency because, is he serious? He's going to go back to free safety? Is he going to, what's going to happen there? Well, so our team's going to be like, hey, we like you in the slot. He's going to be like, no. And there's going to be some teams like, all right, we'll play him at free safety. How much are we going to pay him though? Does his value drop? So, interesting. One of those intriguing free agents there. But there you have it. We went through every single NFL team, and I'm expecting quite a few of these to happen because they seem to do so. But we'll have our actual predictions, though. These are actually, technically, we're not predictions, but I like the fits here. Closer free agency, we'll go through all the predictions, and those have been pretty spot on. Some of them, I should say, for the last several years. So excited about all of our free agency content, but we don't stop there. We have the trade talk, trade rumors, content like that. We have the NFL draft. We're covering the Super Bowl as well. We have all kinds of content on the channel. So check it out. Like, subscribe, to notifications on. Join us for the upcoming content here. Make sure you follow us on Twitter. There's a link pinned in the comments for that, as well as our Discord that is now open to everyone. Check it all out. That's going to do it. Thanks for watching. Goodbye.